Draw the line against self-serving politicians.
Florida, February 2010. Grassroots reformers target partisan gerrymandering, a hot issue now in many states.
We don't let foxes guard hen houses or let bank robbers protect banks, but we let politicians draw their own district lines.
In Tallahassee, Republican lawmakers are out to squelch reform.
So it's impossible?
May I finish the answer?
They're grilling Ellen Frieden, leader of Fair Districts Florida, the citizen reform movement.
Let's make one thing clear when we start. Florida is one of the most politically gerrymandered states in the Union.
It's the people versus the politicians.
I represent all the people in Florida who really want to see the partisanship in redistricting stopped.
Reformers want to amend the Florida Constitution to bar politicians from rigging election districts with the intent of keeping themselves in power.
Ms. Frieden, with all due respect, the word intent, the actual intent could only be determined by a court, could it not, as a matter of law?
No, I think that the intent starts with you.
Lawmakers questioned Frieden for hours, nitpicking comments she'd made to the media.
So can you tell me that you disavow those statements?
I believe that my words are getting twisted here.
So what I'd like to ask, please look at me, I'm speaking with you. But this is a pretty serious matter. I mean, I know you had a 6 o'clock flight, but we're gonna change the Florida Constitution.
I will stay if that is your will. I have put my life into this because it is something that I feel very passionately about. I'm a volunteer. I'm not getting paid to do this. I probably work 80 hours a week on this.
If lawmakers intended to intimidate Frieden, their effort backfires.
It got me more committed to winning, and it got everybody who was supporting us more committed.
Frieden's reformers show voters how gerrymandering stacks the deck. They point to District 3, a weird-shaped congressional district that snakes 200 miles from Jacksonville to Orlando. By packing it with black voters, the Republican legislature gave Democrat Corinne Brown a super safe seat and shifted white voters into nearby districts.
That enabled Republicans to win the surrounding districts. It's called bleaching.
For a fix, other states like Arizona, Montana, and New Jersey use independent bipartisan commissions to draw election district maps. But Florida's Black and Latino leaders oppose that idea, and their support is vital to Frieden.
There's a kind of high level of mistrust for how these structures work. So, of course, people thought, well, why should I trust an independent panel that is going to be appointed by the elected officials that we're saying are not representative of who we are?
We were against that primarily because it didn't take it out of the political realm. It would have ultimately the impact of hurting minority folks' ability to elect candidates of their choice.
To get minority buy-in, Frieden offers legal protections and a radically new approach.
We made it unconstitutional for legislators to draw districts with intent to favor themselves or their party.
Frieden's coalition, spearheaded by Common Cause and the League of Women Voters, collects 1.5 million signatures to put its reform on the ballot. And with strong media backing, they build broad bipartisan support among voters.
The media's response to the Fair Districts movement was incredible. We had editorials from every single newspaper in the state, not only once, not only twice, but probably 5 or 6 times at every major juncture.
Come Election Day, Fair Districts Florida achieves the impossible. 3.1 million Floridians vote for gerrymander reform, a 62.9% supermajority. But Republicans who had fought reform also win big, piling up huge legislative supermajorities. Then in May 2011, the very same leaders who had savaged Ellen Frieden changed their tune.
We have a constitutional obligation to do this right, to make it the most open, transparent, and publicly participatory reapportionment process in Florida's history.
They promised to hold 26 public hearings and to put the whole process online.
And making sure that we give citizens the direct say, literally the ability to send in their plans so that we can draw the lines that best reflect the communities that we all represent. And so,
it seemed too good to be true, and it was.
For proof, look no further than the state of Florida.
When the legislature unveils new district maps in February 2012, Ellen Frieden sees instantly that voters have been tricked. The new maps look a lot like the old ones, stacked to favor Republicans.
It was gerrymandering with disregard for the Fair Districts Amendment is what it was.
When I saw the Republicans' 2011 redistricting plan, I was disgusted. The Republicans were willing to take the chance of defying the Constitution because they had been behaving that way for decades before then.
The legislative leadership had put together this scheme where they were going to act like they were following the Fair Districts Amendments, when in fact the real maps, the real work on redistricting was being done behind closed doors by paid political operatives. It was a double game.
Making clear.
Orlando attorney David King, representing the League of Women Voters, goes to court to expose the double game. Lawmakers claiming they want maps from the public, but secretly getting their real maps from Republican campaign experts.
And so on a hunch, we subpoenaed a series of paid political Republican operatives. And what we got from this subpoena process was a treasure trove of maps and communications.
Give me how you got the breakthrough. I presume when you take depositions, take testimony from the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, they basically don't tell you a lot. But you got to have somebody spill the beans. Who spills the beans and how do you get that?
Well, it turns out one of the political operatives, Mr. Reichelderfer, was a hoarder. He kept all his stuff. He had it in his computer. His computer should be like on the National Register or something because it had like 150 maps.
Mark Reichelderfer was a professional consultant for the Florida Republican Party.
Sir, raise your right hand to be sworn, please.
And a longtime political pal and personal campaign manager for the Republican House Speaker.
Mark Reichelderfer's files were the smoking gun. We had emails coming from Speaker Cannon. We had emails coming to Mark Reichelderfer from other political operatives who were working at the Republican Party of Florida. Mark Reichelderfer was a hub of communications.
These operatives drew the maps, and then they found people in the community, in the Republican community, to actually file the maps with the legislature.
One unwitting fall guy was then 22-year-old Florida State University student Alex Posada, a former Republican Party intern. Congressional district maps were submitted without Posada's knowledge from an email address of his that he rarely used. Months later, under oath, Posada says he never submitted any maps. With computer sleuthing, attorney Fritz Wormuth traces the bogus Posada maps to a Florida Republican Party campaign official.
Oh, right by me. Here you go.
In court, the GOP official admits drawing and circulating district maps.
I shared my maps. I didn't put a patent or copyright on them. If someone thought they were good enough to be submitted, I'm certainly more than happy that they were submitted.
And we found that his maps had more districts that actually turned up in the final legislative maps than any of the others.
A circuit court judge finds the legislature engaged in conspiracy and illegal gerrymandering. The case goes to the Florida Supreme Court on appeal. The judge orders maps redrawn for 2 congressional districts. Lawmakers make such minor tweaks that reformers are totally frustrated.
We had to appeal to the Florida Supreme Court.
The High Court's ruling in July 2015 is a political earthquake. It rebukes the legislature for partisan gerrymandering with unconstitutional intent and orders 8 congressional districts redrawn. The state Senate then admits its maps were also illegal, and they're thrown out.
When I saw the Supreme Court's decision, I started trembling. It was a complete and total vindication of all we had been working for all these years.
The courts relied heavily on maps drawn by Fair Districts Florida, which had immediate impact in 2016. With more competitive districts, 5 congressional incumbents are ousted. Political newcomers win, like former Orlando Police Chief Val Demings and Rollins College professor Stephanie Murphy. More new faces are likely next November.
The The message is that our political system in this country can be fixed. And my answer to somebody who would complain would be, get out there and fix it.
If we can do it in Florida, you can do it in your own state.
I believe that we will win.
Energized by such victories in Connecticut, Washington State, North Carolina, California, and Florida, people all across the country sense a new day for grassroots civic action to revitalize American democracy.
We are seeing activism, the likes of which we haven't seen in decades. There is enormous opportunity to move reforms because people are hungry for concrete action they can take in this moment.
Hope you enjoyed our video and you'll share it with others. To see more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on that little button down there. Hope to see you again soon.